This is a stimulus update and daily news report, and wow, got some crazy news to share with you. Joe Manchin about to get double-crossed by Democrats from secretive side deal that happened in order to get Joe Manchin's vote for the Inflation Reduction Act, and there could be some stimulus revenge going on behind the scenes. I'll let you know what's going on there. $300 and $1,000 checks going out, one of them going out on September 12th, and if gas prices go down, who gets the credit? President Biden, someone else, and if it goes back up, whose fault is it? I'll play that for you in a video clip. Also, when it comes to democracy, majority of Americans think that democracy is threatened right now, and I'll give you some other more important updates like Dr. Fauci leaving office and a few others as well. Hope you're having a terrific Tuesday. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below, and I'm giving $200 checks to my subscribers in just 2 days. You still have some time left if you haven't already. Details down in the description below. So White House Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci to step down in December after more than 50 years of public service. The 81-year-old has advised 7 U.S. presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan, and he's leaving public service to pursue the next chapter of his career. He first joined the NIH in 1968 at age 27, eventually taking over as director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases in 1984, and he was praised by some people, criticized by other people. Where do you stand with Dr. Fauci? Should he leave? Do you think he did a good job, bad job? He was a very politically divisive person, not divisive, politically polarizing person. You were either for him or against him, but let me know your thoughts on Dr. Fauci. And when it comes to democracy, threats to democracy, top list of issues facing the U.S. according to a poll here. So I would have thought that cost of living and big cost would be the top of it, but it looks like according to this poll, democracy being threatened is top of the list. Take a look at this video clip right here explaining that and a few other statistics.
Hi, Shep. Well, Americans' priorities appear to be shifting ahead of the midterm elections. Now they see threats to democracy as the most important issue facing the country, ahead of even the cost of living. 21% of voters put it at the top of their list in our NBC poll, more than any other issue. It ranked number one for 29% of Democrats, 17% of independents, and 17% of Republicans as well. But speaking to reporters in Kentucky this morning, top Senate Republican Mitch McConnell downplayed these numbers.
We saw between the November 3rd and January 20th changing of one administration for another. There were those who were trying to prevent the orderly transfer of power for the first time in American history. That was not good, but our democracy is solid, and I don't think of the things that we need to worry about, I wouldn't be worried about that one.
Now, overall, voters remain downbeat about the country's prospects. Nearly 3/4 say America is headed in the wrong direction, and 68% think we're already in a recession, even though economists say the jury's still out. Meanwhile, President Biden's approval rating held steady, albeit at a low level of 42%, as Democrats notched a series of legislative victories over the summer. Democrats also appear to be closing the enthusiasm gap with Republicans. 66% signaled a high level of interest in the midterms compared to 68% of Republicans. So that's just a 2 percentage point difference, down from 8 points in May and 17 back in March. The reason appears to be the Supreme Court's decision on Roe v. Wade. A majority of voters oppose that ruling. So, Shep, this could end up being a pivotal issue in November, not just for the congressional races, but down the ballot as well.
So what are your thoughts on that? Is democracy threatened? Let me know your thoughts. What's most important to you? Is it cost of living or democracy? Let me know your thoughts on that. Let's get into this juicy Joe Manchin news right here. So Senator Joe Manchin says he can handle attacks from both sides that paint him as the hero and the villain. What he said here is, nobody in their right mind would go through what I have gone through with my staff for the last 8 months. So yeah, depending on which side you were on, whether the right or the left, Joe Manchin was either loved or hated. And then it kind of swapped. after that. But Joe Manchin, he had to make some deals on the side in order to get things done. Kind of like if you scratch my back, I scratch yours. So Manchin's permitting side deal highlights the energy transition's central conundrum. So what's going on here? Well, I thought it was a little interesting how all of a sudden Joe Manchin was on board with the Inflation Reduction Act. I thought for sure he was either threatened or bribed, and it looks like it could have been one of those. So Joe Manchin warns Democrats not to double-cross him on climate deal, threatens government shutdown if Congress opposes, right? So we already know that the Inflation Reduction Act passed, right? That passed last week. But Senator Joe Manchin has cautioned far-left Democrats that double-crossing him blocking legislation to streamline fossil fuel and renewable energy projects would only jeopardize their green agenda. So basically what happened here, I'll explain a little more here. In exchange for the conservative West Virginia Democrats' crucial vote to pass the party's $740 billion tax and climate spending law, Democratic leader promised to approve a separate bill to slash bureaucratic permitting regulations that often delay energy infrastructure projects for years. Some House Democrats now don't want to keep their side of the bargain. So basically, in order to get this huge $740 billion Inflation Reduction Act, with Joe Manchin being as the poster boy, Joe Manchin was promised something on the side to have his own little energy bill, his own little deal. Like I said before, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. That's kind of how Washington works. Well, Joe Manchin kept up his end of the bargain, but now it looks like Democrats don't want to give Joe Manchin his favor, saying here, we owe him nothing. Rashida Tlaib vows to vote down Joe Manchin's oil-friendly Inflation Reduction Act side deal. Saying he and his fossil fuel donors already got far too much in the Inflation Reduction Act, according to Rashida Tlaib. So it looks like Joe Manchin got the big vote, got it done. Democrats were supposed to help Joe Manchin out with some other side deal, and now they're saying, sorry, Joe, not going to happen. So we're going to see what happens here. Joe Manchin threatening, saying, don't double cross me, but not saying what he'll do. So probably going to be a lot of behind the door negotiations and talks and things like that. I'll keep you updated on what's going on with that. When it comes to stimulus going out, tax rebates 2022, direct check payments worth up to $300 to be sent out in just weeks. So this is going on to certain residents in Illinois, and they'll begin receiving property tax and income tax rebates starting the week of September 12th. And it looks like it'll be $50 for individuals, $100 for married couples, and then as much as $300 if the filer has dependents, with $100 per dependent and a maximum of 3 dependents to claim. So yeah, that's going on in Illinois. Up to $300 checks there. And then direct payment, who will be able to receive up to $1,000 in payments. So this is going on in Washington, D.C. Looks like, there's going to be $1,000 payments. All right, so according to D.C. Mayor, people enrolled in Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program are eligible to get up to $1,000. So this is up to $1,000 for back-to-school checks for the kids to go back to school. So basically, if you have kids in Washington, D.C., you're eligible up to $1,000 for your kids to go back to school. And when it comes to gas prices are going down, still down, and going even lower potentially. Gas prices are down, but Biden's problem at the pump isn't going away. So when the gas prices were going up, President Biden was to blame, and President Biden blamed other people. But when gas prices go down, President Biden taking credit for it and other people not giving him credit. But what's going to happen now? We're in a very unstable situation right now when it comes to gas, as well as other parts of the economy. Take a look at this video clip explaining more.
I want to bring in Lippau Oil Associates President Andy Lippau. Andy, first, your reaction to, well, first off to the Energy Secretary saying, just go buy some solar panels. Sure, that's going to fix it. But also the fact that we are seeing gasoline prices going down. The Biden administration's taking credit. Let's remind everybody it's mid-August, and this is when gas prices always start to go down.
Well, I think, first of all, the only really substantive action that the Biden administration took was the release of the strategic petroleum reserves, and I think that contributed about 15 to 20 cents a gallon of the gasoline price decline. Now, I expect as we go into the winter, especially the latter half of September, we could see additional relief at the pump of another 15 cents a gallon as refiners begin making that winter blend and that cheaper gasoline cost is passed through to the consumer. When we look at utilities going forward this winter, especially with the soaring price of natural gas, which has doubled since this time last year, the consumer is going to be paying far more for natural gas this upcoming winter heating season, and that's also going to filter into higher electricity costs as 39% of our electricity is generated from natural gas.
Andy, it's Dagan McDowell. How much, though, of the drop in pump prices is just people using less in this country, a decline in demand? Point blank, what has the Biden administration done to lower prices at the pump?
Well, I think the demand destruction that we're seeing plays a very big part. It seems to me that demand is off 3 to 5% compared to this time last year as the consumer has been changing their habits. The Biden administration releasing the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is really the only concrete action that they've taken, but they've done very little to get more oil and natural gas out of the ground, as much of that production and leasing is now tied up in court decisions.
Now we're more dependent on OPEC than we were under the former administration, Andy. And now the new Secretary General says they are not to blame for high energy prices. They're pointing the finger at lawmakers and the lack of investment in oil and gas. Your take on this, because you kind of mentioned here, we're not producing domestically, but again, OPEC is now in charge.
Well, this is quite disingenuous, as if OPEC Plus is not part of the oil market. The fact is that OPEC Plus has resumed their oil production quotas. They're missing their production targets by 2.8 million barrels a day. When they talk about government policies, one needs to look no further than Nigeria or Iraq, where government policies inhibit investment due to changing legislative landscapes. If we look at Libya, there's political unrest between two competing factions that impacts oil production in that country. And in Angola, simply the investment has deteriorated over the years such that Angola production has fallen substantially.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree, disagree? And that is all the news that I have for you today to hopefully cheer you up a bit. Here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Oh, sorry guys, I didn't see that. Can I tell you something? What I want to do is go to the moon. I need to go to the moon. Never mind. What do you want? Tell me in the comments below and see what you want. If you want to do something, then accomplishment. Do what you want, because that after you get too old to not do what you want. Oh, bye. The moon. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget about those $200 checks. And today we are going to go do a little bit of pickleball with friends. So Bella and Kalea and their friends and my friend who's the dad, and we're going to go play pickleball and hang out and do a bunch of fun stuff together. But anyways, hopefully you have a great rest of your day. If you want to check out any of my other videos on my other channels, you could click right up here, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.